morning sun stretched across the Montana prairie like a warm quilt that Mary's grandmother might have sewn decades ago. Samuel Whitmore had been riding the boundary fences since dawn, checking for breaks in the wire that might let his cattle wander into the neighboring spread. At 62, he had spent more mornings on horseback than he could count, but this particular morning felt different somehow. The golden light seemed softer, and the wind carried a scent of sage and wildflowers that reminded him of his late wife Eleanor, who had always loved the prairie in early summer. His horse Chester, a reliable bay gelding with kind eyes, picked his way carefully along the creek bed, where the ground grew soft and muddy from the recent spring. Samuel had learned over the years to trust Chester's instincts about where to step and where to pause. They had been partners for nearly 8 years now, and understood each other in the way that comes only from shared experience and mutual respect. As they rounded a bend in the creek, Samuel noticed something unusual near the water's edge. At first glance, it appeared to be a bundle of old cloth, perhaps discarded by travelers or blown there by the wind. But Chester's ears pricked forward, and his steps became more cautious, which told Samuel that whatever lay ahead was not as simple as it seemed. Drawing closer, Samuel could see that the bundle was actually a young woman wrapped in what appeared to be a torn and blood-stained blanket. She was sitting with her knees drawn up to her chest, her dark hair hanging in damp strands around her face. Her feet were bare and muddy, and she seemed to be shivering despite the growing warmth of the morning sun. Samuel's first instinct was to dismount and approach, but something in the woman's posture told him to proceed with extreme caution. She had not yet noticed him and Chester and seemed lost in her own world of pain or fear or both. He had seen enough wounded creatures in his lifetime, both animal and human, to recognize someone who had been through terrible trauma. "Miss," he called gently from about 20 feet away, not wanting to startle her. The young woman's head snapped up, and Samuel could see that her face was bruised, and there were scratches on her arms and shoulders. Her eyes were wide with fear, and she pulled the blanket tighter around herself, as if it could provide protection from whatever new threat she perceived. "Please don't be afraid," Samuel said in the same tone he used when approaching a frightened horse. "I'm not going to hurt you." He remained mounted, knowing that dismounting might seem more threatening, and kept his hands visible on the saddle horn. "My name is Samuel Whitmore, and this is my land you're on. Are you hurt badly?" The woman stared at him for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether he could be trusted. Finally, she spoke in a voice that was barely above a whisper. "Please don't make me go back," she said. "I can't go back there." Samuel felt his heart tighten with understanding. He had lived long enough to know that when someone spoke those words with such desperation, they had fled from something or someone who had caused them great harm. "Nobody's going to make you go anywhere. You don't want to go," he assured her. "But you need help, and you need it soon. Will you let me help you?" The woman's eyes filled with tears, and she shook her head frantically. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If he finds me, he'll kill me. And anyone who helped me." Samuel felt a familiar anger rise in his chest, the same anger he had felt whenever he encountered cruelty or injustice, but he kept his voice calm and steady. "Well, then we'll just have to make sure he doesn't find you," he said. "What's your name, miss?" "Rebecca," she said after a moment's hesitation. "Rebecca Stone." "Well, Rebecca Stone, I'm going to get down off this horse now, and I'm going to offer you my coat because you're shivering. Then we're going to figure out how to get you somewhere safe and warm." He dismounted slowly, keeping his movements deliberate and non-threatening. Chester stood perfectly still, sensing the delicate nature of the situation. Samuel removed his heavy wool coat and approached Rebecca with the same patience he would show a wounded deer. "May I?" he asked. Holding out the coat, Rebecca nodded and allowed him to drape it over her shoulders. The coat was far too large for her small frame, but it provided immediate warmth and coverage. "Now then," Samuel said, settling himself on a fallen log a respectful distance away. "Can you tell me what happened to you?" "Only if you want to." Rebecca was quiet for several minutes, staring at the flowing water of the creek. When she finally spoke, her voice was stronger. "Though still filled with pain, I was married," she said, 3 months ago to a man named Jacob Brennan. I thought I was the luckiest woman in the territory. He was handsome and charming, and he owned a big ranch near Billings. She paused, and Samuel waited patiently. But after the wedding, everything changed, she continued. He became cruel and violent. He said I belonged to him now, and that he could do whatever he wanted with me. He locked me in the house and wouldn't let me leave. He beat me when I tried to argue or when I didn't do things exactly the way he wanted. Samuel's jaw tightened, but he kept his expression neutral. How did you get away? Last night he drank more than usual and fell asleep. Rebecca said, I took some clothes, and what little money I could find, and I ran. I walked all night following the creek because I knew it would lead me away from his land. But I don't know where I am now, and I don't know where to go. Samuel considered this for a moment. How far? Do you think you walked? I don't know, Rebecca admitted. It felt like forever. My feet are so sore I can barely stand. Samuel looked at her bare feet and winced at the cuts and bruises he could see. Well, the good news is you're about 15 miles from Billings now, he said. The bad news is that's not nearly far enough if he's looking for you. But I have an idea if you're willing to trust me. Rebecca looked at him with a mixture of hope and skepticism. Why would you help me? She asked. You don't even know me. Samuel was quiet for a moment, thinking of Eleanor and how she would have wanted him to respond. Because it's the right thing to do, he said simply, and because everyone deserves to be treated with kindness and respect, especially by the person they married. He stood up and extended his hand to her. Can you walk at all? Rebecca tried to stand but winced in pain. Not very well, she admitted. Then we'll ride double, Samuel said. Chester here is strong enough to carry us both. I'm going to take you to my ranch and we'll get you cleaned up and fed. Then we'll figure out the next step. But I need you to promise me something, he added, as he helped her to her feet. Promise me you won't try to run off on your own again. Not until you're healed and we have a real plan. Running without a destination is just another way of being trapped. Rebecca nodded and allowed Samuel to help her onto Chester's back. The ride to the ranch house took about an hour, and Samuel used the time to tell her about the area and about his life. He spoke of Eleanor and how they had built their ranch together over 30 years. He talked about their children who were now grown and living in California. He mentioned his neighbors and the small community of people who looked out for each other. The thing about living out here, he said as they approached the ranch buildings, is that we all depend on each other. When someone needs help, you give it. When someone needs shelter, you provide. It's not complicated. The ranch house was a modest 2-story structure with a wide front porch and flower boxes that Eleanor had insisted on installing years ago. Samuel still maintained them as best he could, growing the same petunias and marigolds that she had loved. He helped Rebecca down from the horse and noticed that she was looking around nervously. It's safe here, he assured her. This house has been a refuge for a lot of people over the years. Eleanor always said it was too big for just the two of us, so we might as well share it with folks who needed it. Inside the house was clean and comfortable with worn furniture that spoke of decades of use and care. Samuel led Rebecca to the kitchen and began heating water for tea. There's a spare room upstairs, he said. It has its own wash basin and there are some of Eleanor's old dresses in the wardrobe. You're welcome to anything that fits. What about your husband? Rebecca asked, looking around the kitchen. Won't he object to you bringing a stranger into his house? Samuel paused in his tea preparation and Rebecca saw a shadow cross his face. Eleanor passed away 2 years ago, he said quietly. Cancer. She fought it as long as she could, but in the end, it was stronger than she was. I'm sorry, Rebecca said immediately. I didn't mean to. It's all right, Samuel interrupted gently. You couldn't have known, but Eleanor would have liked you. She had a soft spot for anyone who was trying to escape from a difficult situation. She used to say that courage wasn't about not being afraid. It was about doing what needed to be done even when you were terrified. He poured hot water over tea leaves and set a cup in front of Rebecca. Now then, he said, settling into a chair across from her. We need to talk about what happens next. Jacob Brennan is going to look for you. Men like him don't like losing control of what they consider their property. But there are ways to make it difficult for him to find you, Rebecca wrapped her hands around the warm cup and felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. What kind of ways? Well, first we need to get you looking less like someone who just fled through the wilderness, Samuel said. A hot bath and clean clothes will help. With that, then we need to get you to somewhere he won't think to look. I have a sister named Martha who runs a boarding house in Helena. She's always looking for help with cooking and cleaning. It would give you